welcome to this webinar that is going to discuss a little bit the safety culture and how to approach it in the times of new generations entering the job market, and also current employees being obviously required to follow the nuclear safety culture at their jobs. With us, we have two wonderful speakers. Felix Möllerke is head of the Competence.hub training at Framatome in Lingen. He holds a degree in industrial engineering and has 8 years of professional experience in the nuclear industry. In his past positions, he led the lean management in fuel element manufacturing at Framatome. And also he managed several international large-scale projects. Throughout his career, he was always focused on employee training and development that led him to his current position. And our co-presenter, John Kettler, has over 18 years of experience in the engineering sector, specializing in nuclear technology. He focuses on consulting and coaching executives to enhance talent acquisition and optimize digital systems. Dr. Kettler co-founded AINT, which now belongs to Gesellschaft für Nuclear Service, and Actimondo, which is dedicated to advancing modern training concepts for the nuclear sector. His work has been recognized with several prestigious awards, and John also organized more than 130 workshops and seminars, conferences for over 3,300 professionals in the nuclear technology. My name is Jadwiga Najder. I am the Science and Outreach Manager at European Nuclear Society, and it will be my pleasure to moderate this webinar. And so the floor I pass to Felix and John to tell us a little bit about the Disney approach to nuclear safety.
Thank you, Jadwiga.
Yeah, well, thank you very much, Jadwiga, for this kind introduction. I hope you are now able to see my screen.
Yes.
Perfect. It's a pleasure for me to have the opportunity today to share together with John to you the story, how we managed to combine, nuclear safety with a Disney approach. And what does it mean in the end? I think we found a quite good way to make the topic about safety and safety culture interesting, engaging, and motivating for people. And this is an idea that we would like to share with you today. And I would cluster the presentation or the webinar into 3 different sections. So we will start with a short introduction by explaining some background about safety culture and why it's important. Then we will come to the current status and current challenges in the nuclear sector. And in the end, we're coming to one possible solution, so to apply the Disney approach for trainings. And in the end, we will also have some time for questions and also for a discussion. And by the way, throughout the webinar, we will also start some polls and try to integrate you because your feedback is also interesting for us, and we would like to engage you into the content. But for now, I would say we're going to start. So first thing first, let's talk about the human safety gap. And maybe if you take a look at the picture, you will recognize something. So let me say it this way. This door is supposed to be a fire safety door. And maybe if you have a closer look, you will recognize something. Well, and maybe some of you found it. Very at the bottom here, there's a little piece of wood blocking the door. So what does it mean? Usually in nuclear technology, we have 3 different safety barriers. So we have the technology, which is shown here, a mechanical mechanism to close the door or keep the door closed. We have the organization, so we have rules and we have instructions, like here, keeping the door closed. And then we have the human behavior. And in this case, the human behavior blocked or changed all the other barriers. So the technical and the organizational barrier was bypassed by the human behavior. And this is an interesting fact if we think about safety and safety culture in the nuclear industry. Because what we notice is when we think about accidents, and we notice a lot of workplace accidents in the nuclear sector are caused or at least not prevented by human behavior. And this picture shows it perfectly well and with an easy example. And this is something that we are facing in our daily business in many companies. And this is not because people are having a bad mindset in terms of safety, but sometimes with other ideas in their head, and we will come to that. But first of all, let's just repeat. So how is safety organized, or how do we try to reach the highest level of safety? Well, we can easily describe it with a cheese slide model. So we have one piece of cheese, which is the technology. We have another piece of cheese, which is the organization. And we have another slide of cheese, which is the human behavior. And of course, every barrier has some holes in it, like the Swiss cheese. But if we put several layers behind, then it's very difficult for an accident or for an event to happen, because with a high probability, one of the cheese slides will block it. So one barrier will work. But what we sometimes underestimate is that the human behavior can even switch off organizational or technology barriers. And this is a very important point to think about when we think about where is training or effective training really needed. And now I would like to start with the first question to you. And the first question is, why do you think people bypass safety devices, or why do people fail to act when regulations are violated and situations like this door are happening? And to answer this, we are now starting a poll and looking for your feedback.
The shorter the answers, the better. So if you can find, like we see right now, organization, one word, this will let us have a nice word cloud to see the trends as well. Okay, we see very big trend here. So convenience, that's a slogan. Lazy appears as well. There is a little bit of kind of reality check, real world. Lack of understanding or lack of awareness, lack of organizational culture. We see there is this trend also with laziness, something like easiest way. It's the easiest.
Pressure is coming up. All right.
Yes, a little bit also of maybe pressure. People are busy. People don't have time to focus on details. There is a little bit of management as well that I see. What do you think about those results, Felix, John? What are your?
Thank you very much for
your comment on that?
Thank you very much for the answer. I think convenient is a good answer. It's because it seems to be easy to behave in a way like it is in at home or wherever where you go. and where you do not have maybe this safety culture, yeah. And here it's more restricted, yeah, by the technology or organization. And so convenient seems to be easy, but I think this is the right side, because it seems also to show that it is kind of the way how to react on or what to do to succeed with this human safety gap. Felix, you made my ad.
Maybe you can also say something about this. The biggest word right now is pressure, time pressure, work pressure.
Yeah, what I think and what we very often recognize in the industry is that people, and let me put it in a positive way, because I don't see it too negative, but people most of the time they don't have some negative ideas. They don't want to compromise safety, but pressure is a good word. So usually people are trying to be more efficient and more effective. And so when they see a way to be more efficient, then they use it. And this helps them to, let's say, manage the pressure. But then it's sometimes a lack of understanding for our safety principles, because then the efficiency is gained through, let's say, not sticking to safety rules. And I think that's the main case. But we will come to not a solution, but maybe a good explanation on the next slide. John,
sorry, Felix. Felix, sorry. Just a remark here, because I opened too early my poll, and then I just had not the final result. So if somebody open and close and reopen, you will see the final result of this poll. Yeah? Just wanted, because in my case it doesn't update automatically.
I can post it in the chat for in case somebody wants to take a look after. Yeah.
Thank you, Jadwiga.
All right. So I already introduced that we will talk about a model that helps us understanding this, what we just asked. It's called the individual risk management model. And this model summarizes pretty simple what makes us taking a risk or not taking a risk. And this, to understand this, is very helpful for, let's say, designing processes in terms of safety. So when we see in this model the human in the middle, we see 4 different arrows, and these arrows represent different factors that influence us by evaluating risks. So the first one is the factor knowledge. When we don't have the knowledge about something, then we don't see it as a risk. Very easy example, if we think about radiation, if no one tells us that radiation is dangerous, then we will not consider it as a risk, and we will probably act differently. The second factor is the factor rule understanding. So even if we think rules have been defined pretty clear and there's no misunderstanding possible, the practical experience shows there is room for interpretation, and people will use the biggest range of interpretation that is possible. So it's also very important to make sure that rules are quite clear. The next factor is the factor recognition. So am I able to recognize the risk? And let's take the example of radiation again. If we think about radiation, with our 5 senses, we are not able to recognize this risk, which means we need, for example, technical devices that help us to measure the risk or the intensity or whatever. And the last factor is the factor of assessment. So would I assess a risk the same today and maybe in 1 year? So this there could be a lot of impact. For example, how do I feel today? Am I stressed? Do I maybe have a cold? Did I have a good night or a bad night? So a lot of things that could influence how I evaluate a risk today or maybe on another day. So all these factors lead to different risk evaluations. And this, in the end, is very important to understand the human behavior and why we sometimes see things happening like with the door, that the door is blocked. Because someone maybe thought it's more efficient to keep the door open and maybe not with a bad attitude. So this is the first thing. And this sometimes leads to a more reactive than proactive safety culture. And what does that mean? So what we very often see, and also at our companies, is that we sometimes work more reactively in terms of safety than proactively. So that means we have to respond after an incident occurs, and we do not trying. Of course, we try, but sometimes it does not work. We're trying to prevent incidents before they happen, but this does not always work. So what happens after an incident occurs? We have to do incident reporting. We have to do some investigations. What happened? We have to define corrective actions, and the whole process is very compliance driven. And it's very hard to change the mode into a proactive safety culture. And this is something you can see it on the right-hand side, where when we focus on a proactive safety culture, we're trying to identify risk and hazards before they even lead to an accident, which means we have to train people preventively, and we have to create a culture which is continuously improving and trying to keep risks as low as possible. And John already mentioned this. Maybe even sometimes we have to decrease the risk at the workplace more than we, for example, would do it at home, where we have, for example, not a nuclear environment. And this is
Hopefully.
Sometimes, hopefully, yes, this is sometimes a little bit uncommon for us because we have to step out of our common patterns. Well, but what do we learn from it? When we're trying to build a proactive nuclear safety culture, it's very important to consider the human factor as a very important element in our safety strategy. And at this moment, I would ask to the audience if someone has any good example of a proactive safety culture and what happened exactly, which he or she would like to share with the audience. Maybe there's someone who experienced in the last weeks, months, a situation which was really driven by a proactive safety culture.
Mm-hmm. If I'm not mistaken, you should be able to unmute yourself and to propose some ideas. So just to remind, we have examples of preventive training, if you have an example of risk assessment or continuous improvement that you could observe in your company, or maybe you proposed yourself.
Who makes the icebreaker?
And this can be a simple thing. So we're not talking about some very scientific approaches. It's sometimes just seeing someone behaving risky and then just addressing it and explaining it to him and coming to a joint understanding that maybe the behavior should be changed a little bit. So easy things.
You may raise your hand if you have an idea. Then our colleague will unmute you from the to change the settings of your participation. I may share something from my experience, actually. When I worked in my previous job, we had this really nice project called Safety Day, where once a year it was a full day of different activities related to safety culture, but not just a repetition of instructions. But an example was analyzing the situation of what was happening several years ago with Boeing 737 MAX. And we had this really interesting kind of going through all the different activities that happened at the development of the aircraft, and then different incidents and then accidents that were happening. And as participants, I was the presenter, but as the participants, people were supposed to decide, what should you do? What should a person in the industry do in a given problematic situation, in a given incident? And then discussing to understand whether this decision was the safe one, the following safety culture or not. So it was a really interesting event that was really the proactive side, I think. We have one hand, Marcel. You can unmute yourself, please.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm Marcel Jansen, Manager QHSE at Nuclear Research Group in PETA. We have the agreement within the organization that every meeting is started with the safety moment.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's familiar to you, but it helps.
Yeah, yeah, I'm familiar with that, and my experience is, and this is the same what Jadwiga shared, some fundamental things that we implement in our organization that make clear that safety has a priority, and that safety is not just a minor topic that can also, let's say, flip from the agenda just because there are other important things, but that makes clear that you start your meeting with safety, or you have a safety day, and this is not skipped due to some important projects or so on. And I think this is a very important organizational thing to make sure that safety has a certain level, and the highest level in the organization. So thank you very much for sharing these examples.
Mm-hmm. We still have comment from Ahmed saying also drills like fire alarm drill or evacuation drill may be proactive safety culture.
Yes, definitely. So we try to make sure that the behavior is not only theoretically trained, we will come to that, but also practically. And this makes sure that we can not only from a theoretical point explain how something works, but that we have experienced it ourselves. And so this is much more deeper learning, but I will not take too much of John's part. So I would take this as an introduction, because I would now hand over to John, and John will focus a little bit on the human part and how learning works, because now we talked about why a safety culture and a proactive safety culture is important, and now we are slightly moving on to how can we now come to a good safety culture, to a proactive safety culture. And one or two important things that that should be, from our experience, respected will now be presented by John.
Yeah, thank you very much, Felix. You are right. What we want to achieve is a proactive safety culture, which is the main focus, therefore. And we also see in the answer in the participants here, considering the human behavior is really important, therefore. And we have to see now, we have different expectations, especially how learning works, due to the fact that we have here generations which have different background from school, high school, university. So in terms of the knowledge transfer, there's a difference. And if we want to build up a competence in nuclear safety, we have to take care of this issue. And therefore, we need to design formats that are really effective in this way of knowledge transfer. And we have to respect that we have different groups, generations. I think several times you heard it. Yeah, the baby boomer, the Generation X, which will go now to pension, has a different experience and how to train, how to educate. Yeah? It's more front-sized learning, like in school. And nowadays, due to the fact that we have digital formats, that we have other possibilities like here with the webinar and so on, we have another kind of experience. And I think also the younger participants here have other expectations. And therefore, we take care of this. And what we also have to say, the so-called Generation Z, they are the so-called digital natives. So we want to introduce these formats which will work. And so that they can work, is also important to know that the value of collaboration is important for this also generation. This is also why we do here this polls and want to bring you actively here in the discussion. Yeah, and this is also led you through, for example, gamification, which is also a tool or a way or method how to train and motivate trainees in the way to be active, because you only gain competence, you only get experience if you act. Yeah, you have to act, not just consume. And this is really important. And therefore, we also organize here formats that work in this way, that also take care on preferring micro-learning and short attention spans that are there due to the fact of social media. And what we have to say is, in the next 5 years, there will be around about 30% of the employees will belong to Generation Z. So this we have to take care if we want to go further. Please change to the next slide, Felix.
Just John, maybe a question. Is this a good moment to maybe ask our audience about the formats that they follow at their jobs?
Of course,
in terms of safety training.
That's a really good answer. Maybe we can make here at this step another poll, another question to you, and that you can give us a feedback what you prefer, what you expect. Thank you.
So what are the formats that you actually follow on your jobs? Then we will see how does it respond to the actual need and this human factor that Felix and John talk about.
The results are coming. Face-to-face is digital training. Thank you very much for sharing.
Okay, so digital and hybrid trainings already have a high share, but face-to-face training is still making the race.
Yeah. Can I see how many answers we still have?
Yes, we have around 30 responses by now.
Yeah, I see. It's 32.
So we have around half of the participants who voted. So if the rest can decide, we can maybe comment briefly on, or then face the reality. How should this training look like? Okay, we have mostly internal face-to-face training, and just after this hybrid training, so digital and face-to-face together.
Okay, then just please close the poll. In 3, 2, 1, and that's it. Thank you very much. It's really great, and we still see face-to-face training is important, and this is also why when I can say when we do training, even with the colleagues here from the Competence.hub, there's this expert calls, which is also face-to-face training, because you get information by asking and get experience from the exchange with in-person discussion. This is really, really important. So Jadwiga, you shared with us the results. Perfect.
Yes.
Do you have any comment here on this result? Is it necessary that we have to discuss this here? Otherwise, we will continue.
I think you can continue. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let's come to another important point, and this is it is same. Let me say we climb up this knowledge stair, as you can see it here. And we have to keep in mind that there are different levels and of coming from knowledge transfer, which is more the explicit knowledge, training, you can say. And where we want to go is also this implicit training, implicit information, implicit knowledge to build up competence. And therefore, we have different steps that you can see here. And important is the most of them, if you know here, is a standard up to middle to the knowledge step. And what is really important is then the acting, as we do here with you, that you give us your feedback. Yeah. And another important is sharing experience. Yeah. So often a question is here, and this is why also Jadwiga started the discussion, what experience others have, because we can gain here a really important implicit knowledge that we can say, but it has to follow a specific way, yeah, so that it could fit in the way that we want to build up competences. Therefore, somebody use KPIs, for example, also to address it. We use it also that you have a benchmark. Yeah, this is also part of the way we go there. Nevertheless, and this is still also part of the beginning of this, there is you have to use the right words, the right characters, the right syntax, because things we address here in nuclear safety culture is different from other fields. So we have also take care that we speak and understand the same way, even if there are cultural differences. Maybe I'm from Germany, it could be different for people from Spain, and we have to find the right rules and that are there, that we can, when we work together, that there is no mismatch and misunderstanding. I think this is an important step, but let's continue and let's talk about more about the target group oriented learning. And so I will give the ball back to Felix, and please give us here some insights about how to exceed now with this topic.
Yeah, well, thanks, John. So to summarize what we learned throughout the last slide is that we now took a little more deeper look onto who is the target group. So we started with a generation. So what you've seen, due to the high share of Generation Z people that will join our industry, this is definitely one of the target groups in terms of safety culture, because we need to focus on these people which have no previous experience. And the second thing that John highlighted is that if we really want to transfer not only knowledge, but really to build up a competence at these young people, which in the end leads to a safety culture, then we need to make sure that we not only have a theoretical knowledge transfer, but that we also engage the people to act themselves to build up some knowledge. And taking these 2 points into account, we thought about how a training could be designed for Generation Z people and what are the most important points. And so what we defined is that trainings should be or could be on demand and 100% digital. So this is not necessarily the case, but it really helps to make it a approach that works for a lot of people, that helps us to spread it out widely and to be fast and effective in terms of training a lot of people into safety culture. The second thing is that those trainings should allow asynchronous or reverse learning. What does it mean? So asynchronous learning means that you're flexible in the way how you learn. So you don't have a class from, let's say, 8 to 9 o'clock, where you have to be available and you have to learn, even if it's not your favorite time for learning. So asynchronous means we don't have these strict times, and reverse learning means, and we are also able to go back to the content, and this is also why it's why digital is a good idea. We can go back to the content whenever we want. So if we are facing a problem and we know that we once had a training about this topic, we can go back to the topic, study the content again, and then solve the problem. So a little bit like if you go on YouTube and look for some instructions how to fix things at home. Then we thought a learning environment must be flexible and interactive. What does it mean? So flexible in the way of when and how to learn. And the other way is interactive. And this is, for example, that we include gamification elements. And this is really important to make sure that people stay motivated, that people are engaged, and this significantly increases how people study, or the result of the studying is significantly increased because people do not only passively go through things, but they are more engaged, they are more active, they think about things, and this really helps. And how this could be done in practice, we will talk about. So I just leave it like this. So now we talked about the target group, how a training for why safety culture is important, what a potential target group is, and how a concept could be set up. But now we still haven't talked about the Disney approach. And this is one more thing that we now have to combine with what we have learned before to make from our experience a really good training. And so let me come to the next point, but maybe before we start, a question to the audience. When you think about digital learning and digital trainings, what are your expectations? So maybe just some bullet points. What do you expect when you hear about digital trainings?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, once more, I recommend short answers. This will let us see the trends clearer.
Okay, gamification, engagement, repeatable, also a very good point. Okay, whoa, flexibility is showing up. Okay, and we see, or it disappeared, I think, but there was something that quizzes are not suitable. Flexibility stays very high.
Very clear.
Mm-hmm. An interesting idea, the availability of Q&A. This keeping contact, I guess, with experts, with a human connection, not only the flexible, fully digital recordings or hazard simulation. Another idea that just appeared. Easy access.
Very interesting. Low quality is also appearing. I can totally understand this. We have a lot of low quality digital trainings.
Yes,
okay,
there is also idea of duration and time efficient. So
yeah.
I guess so that we can fit it in our schedules easier.
Yeah, yeah, so this summarized with flexibility. So I would close it for now and take as a learning for me that flexibility is one of the main things that you think about when you think about digital trainings. And this is, for me, a very interesting but positive result, because it definitely offers a lot of flexibility and a lot more flexibility compared to face-to-face trainings from a point of location, but also from a time, from a time perspective. So you don't need to be at a lecture somewhere at a certain time. And this is something where we can really benefit from. Okay, thanks for sharing your expectations. And as announced before, now I would like to come to the core element of this webinar, the so-called hero's journey, or the Walt Disney approach. So when we think about Walt Disney movies, then there is a pattern, and you've probably not recognized it until now. But if I tell you now, then you will probably think about one or the other movie and see, oh yeah, that's true. So most of the movies, they obviously have a start. After that, the character faces a challenge. So there is some kind of change going on. Then he goes through a transformation, and afterwards he returns as a hero and can solve or can help or whatever. And this is a very good approach. And why is it good for trainings? Because people usually remember stories better than facts. And this was obviously mastered by Disney, very successful company. And people like to watch movies. So very easy. And how can we now apply this for trainings? Well, let's take a look on the different stations. So first, the start. So usually the learner is unaware and curious for the new situations and new topics that he's about to learn. Sometimes we can explain him the challenge that he's facing. So maybe something he was not aware of. In this case, for example, the human safety gap. You've probably been not aware of this specific problem in terms of safety culture. Then going through a transformation. Throughout the training, you should not only help him to gain new knowledge, but to gain new skills and change the behavior. And this is especially important if we think about safety culture. And then, if this happened, the hero can return and apply the knowledge and the competency built in real life. And so he's becoming a role model, in this case, for safety. And this is a very theoretical explanation. So I'm trying to make it more tangible for you. So what are the ideas behind? So the idea is to make the training more an adventure and not a lecture. The learners should see themselves as a hero of their own story. So it should not just be a training, and in the end, you sign with your signature to say, okay, I was physically attending the training. No, it's more than this. You really need to make the learners part of a story. And then the training becomes really effective. And if you then create a culture where people that act or that have a proactive safety culture are also seen as some kind of heroes, and this was why I was asking for positive examples, then you will see that people they enjoy learning and they enjoy those trainings. But this might be still very theoretically, so I would like to make it even more practical. So all the things that we have discussed now, so starting from the problem of the human behavior in terms of safety, the different aspects to be respected in terms of learning, and let's say the masterpiece to put everything into a training that is telling a story. We tried to put this together for a training in safety culture. And how does it look? So the training is divided into 3 weeks. And each training starts on a Monday. And it starts with a small kickoff call. So people are not, let's say, left alone with a digital training. They have a face-to-face talk, a digital face-to-face, or a digital talk to someone. And they have a group which are their training partners for the weeks. And the first thing that is done is to start and to explain the challenge. So the why. Why is nuclear safety culture important? What are, for example, the WANO principles? Where are they coming from? And people are asked to do practical exercises. So once again, this is to apply what you've learned in theory to make sure that the knowledge is becomes deeper and is not only passively studying something, but really to act. And in the end, the week ends with a second live call where all the participants come together again and they can discuss things, they can work on practical tasks. And this is what John mentioned. If we discuss things, if we have interaction, then it's a much more effective learning than just reading or watching videos. So this is the first part. The second part is the transformation. So easily spoken, the what. What is influencing safety culture? And how can we individually influence safety culture? And there it's really important to understand how the human and the organizational factor act, how, for example, operational excellence tools can be applied. And once again, all this is also used to make some practical experiences or to solve some practical exercises to combine the theory with practical approaches. And in the end, we want the hero to return and to understand the how. So how can he act and how can he influence safety culture and practice? And to give him the right tools on hand, we train and we experience feedback techniques and safety dialogues throughout the live call in the last week. And the people, they do not only finalize their training with some theory, but in the end, they have applied themselves what they have learned throughout the training. And this really reduces, let's say, the barrier if you're coming back to your real life, to your job, to act and to address safety risk, because they have all done it before. And so they don't feel, or they feel more encouraged and more confident to address things. And this is really helping to, let's say in the end, increase a proactive safety culture and make sure that not only, let's say, safety engineers or safety responsible people have to make sure that a nuclear facility is acting safely, but that everyone is taking his responsibility for a safe operation. And this is really what we are trying to achieve with this approach. And I'm sharing this because the experience that we made is that if we respect the different steps, this really helps to make trainings more effective and help a good safety culture. And now we are coming to an end, and I would like to quickly conclude what we have discussed today. So if you have noticed, we also took you on a small journey. So we started with making you aware of the topic, so that most workplace accidents are caused or not prevented by humans. Then we started with a current challenge that we see in a lot of companies, that building a proactive safety culture is difficult, especially with a lot of new people joining the industry. And now we need some kind of transformation to make sure that we build up more or keep at least a good competence in the field of nuclear safety alive. And we have shared with you some insights how this could be even more successful than it's probably done up to now. And now we are very happy if you return to your organization and transform your safety culture. Even if it's only a little piece, it will definitely help. And for now, I think we can conclude with one last question. And I would like to ask for sharing it.
Yeah, so the question is, what would you like to change after this webinar regarding safety culture in your organization? What could be the good practices that this brought you, maybe new ideas or
your key takeaways, maybe. Okay, so people is one very important aspect.
Safety minute. Yes, safety minute. We have animation establishing heroes.
And people heroes. So heroes is mentioned a lot. Very good.
New insights. There's digital tools. Explain the why. So you're following your the model of what, why, what, and how.
Okay, digital is becoming more important, and training. All right. Oh, training is becoming more important.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and fun. Very important. So this was one of the key elements that I wanted to highlight. So that people enjoy learning, and it's not just very often, even especially safety trainings are more a negative aspect than a positive aspect. So it's very well if we manage to change this.
Okay.
Yes, fun seems to be a very big factor here.
Yeah, but I think we can stop here because if fun stays the end, then I think we achieved a good result, because that's what the very important aspect is. If we enjoy doing things, then we will be engaged. So
we have 5 minutes left, so there may be questions. You're welcome to raise your hand so that we can unmute you and let you ask the question live, or just ask it in the chat. In the meantime, I have a question. What would be your recommendation for those who just want to implement this idea in their everyday activity? So if they are members of a team, if they are not necessarily yet managers, or how can we do this on everyday basis? Where do we have the hero's journey in there?
I think we need to be very clear about this. It takes a lot of effort. So it takes effort in preparation. It takes effort in setting something up, and even if it's just a story, so we don't always need a very advanced training. But even setting up a story is more effort than probably just I don't know, mentioning a safety topic. But if we do it for certain topics that are very important, then I think that it's more effective to spend a little more time on the preparation of a training or a safety minute or whatever, to make sure that people understand the why, the how, and the what. And then I think we can achieve, even with small things, benefit compared to if we just, for example, share an information and people maybe don't understand the big picture.
We have one comment in the chat mentioning that additional step of evaluation along the way might be important to consider. Thank you, Lisa Tren, for this comment.
Yeah, thanks for that advice, which is of course also taken into account at some stages, but well, it probably too much for this time slot. But thanks.
I would like to say evaluation is an important aspect, but it needs also enough data for evaluation. Then you need a lot of response, otherwise it could be misleading. For example, here I really like it. We are now here still 46 people. And when we see your answers, it's quite good, and it's. I think this is really useful. The feedback that we gave here. This is kind of evaluation that we see here live.
Okay, I think we are just right in time. Is there any last input that you would like to give, Felix and John?
John, go ahead,
Yep.
please.
I agree. I would say yes. Please stay proactive, as Felix said at the beginning, and we mentioned several times before. Have fun with it, and don't go the short way. Yeah, please take care always on yourself and also your colleagues. Yeah, if he or she do something which is maybe not the shortcut, take care. And I wish you all the best. And yeah, stay safe.
Thanks, John. And I can only continue like this. So in Framatome, we currently have a campaign which says, make sure you're not in the line of fire. And this is probably a good quote to share. So to continue to what John said. So if you notice that you or some of your colleagues are in the line of fire, then please act and make sure that you address the topics. And when thinking about safety culture, then yeah, don't take the easy way. It sometimes is worth to think about the whole story. So thank you very much for your attention. It was a pleasure for me to hold this webinar, and thanks Jadwiga and the team for organizing this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you. Have a great day.